And in the news, me and Mr. Dotty are working on a remix of Follows My Number.
And all we've got so far is You Ain't Got Mac Niner, Petchy's in the Faracle. We're missing out quite a chunk of it.
I've been used for carver again.
G4 mathematics.
Mr. Dotty's covering period 4. Right.
Bang, thanks for me small. Right, you ready?
Yep. You ready?
Yep. Good morning, Harris Academy. My name is Mr. Doherty and I'm joined by my co-presenter,
Mr. Rickenberg.
and we are here for our not-so-weekly ramble of jogging around the world. Good morning to you.
Good morning, sir.
How are you?
Sun's up when I'm driving to school now.
Lovely. Light mornings,
Light mornings.
lighter evenings.
Yeah, Bluetooth doesn't work on my car, but that doesn't affect me anymore, sir. I can just vibe through it. Right, listen to LBC.
Vibe with the fresh air.
Yeah. We haven't done a podcast for ages.
So we
I
owe
think we've only done one in 2025 and it's the third month.
Do we owe our listeners an apology?
Yeah, I think so. Well, the one or two that keep requesting we carry it on.
Yeah, we are. We are sorry. There's been a whole host of reasons why we've not been able to do it, but hopefully now we are back with some consistency.
Yeah, we've got at least 3 weeks last term that we can squeeze another one in.
Try and do one more.
Yeah.
But yeah. So good morning to you.
Good morning. What we got in our we made our own coffees this morning actually, didn't we? We had a nice little breakfast.
We went to McDonald's for breakfast this morning. I had a double sausage and egg McMuffin with a hash brown.
Time our entrance onto the A30 at exactly the same time this morning, didn't we?
Yeah, that was it. So we've had a McDonald's. It's Friday. We're trying to form some positive vibes today because it's as usual. It's been a slog.
Yeah, it's been a slog. It's my busy week out of the 2 weeks actually. So
yeah, it's busy. Right, what is in your cup anyway? What are you drinking?
I've got you bought coffees. You're on the. I'm in my tab's huge at the moment.
Coffee deficit.
But I've got Law.
Oh yeah, it is Law, isn't it?
Yeah, it's got to be.
That's
I've got all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've got one scoop because I had a coffee on the way to McDonald's.
Yeah.
Tropicana in McDonald's. And then I've got one scoop in here, one sugar. Whereas you even got milk in that?
Yeah, a little bit of milk, 2 scoops, no sugar. I've given up sugar in my coffee for Lent, and I'm doing all right. Except the first day of Lent, I had sugar in my coffee because I forgot I was giving it up.
I've given up Lent for Lent.
Giving up being healthy for Lent. So yeah, no, that's my coffee. The Law, I like that Law stuff. That's good.
That is nice.
Yeah, really nice.
Right, shout outs. We have to wing this a little bit, but
yeah. So well, let's just be completely honest with our listeners. We aren't prepared, but we're just going to go for it and see what we can come up with.
We decided in McDonald's what we were going to talk about today, didn't we?
We decided this morning what we're going to do. Yeah. So our shout outs first
of all, netball.
So
we did this time last year as well, but once again.
So we've just seen Aisha in year 10, but she is not obviously alone. She's part of the netball team. I don't know if I can name it all. Name them all. Who have you got? Right. If we forget anyone, we're sorry. Aisha, Rochelle,
the Costa
twins, Kelly Otterbar, Chelsea Clark.
Rochelle?
I said Rochelle.
What's her name? Jayla.
Gabrielle. That's 7. Who else is in the team?
How many do I need?
Is it 5 and then 2 subs?
5 and 2 subs, yeah, I think so.
So
could be more. If there's any more, let us know.
If we've forgotten you, we're really sorry. And Mr. Jordan.
Yeah.
Because you lot have absolutely smashed it. They went to nationals yesterday and came 3rd.
Yeah.
So they are the 3rd best netball team in a secondary school. Is it for their age category?
In their age category in the country.
In the whole country. What an achievement. So really, really well done to you lot because
I think that deserves a Transforming Lives Award at the next conference actually, sir.
Well, I reckon what for Mr. Jordan?
Yeah.
That is his nomination there. Harris Federation, Mr. Jordan, Transforming Lives. Come on, that is an amazing achievement. They had to drive to Loughborough yesterday. That's where they were, Loughborough Uni.
Yeah. So well played them. Well played.
I think they were on the road for something like 5, like something daft like 5 AM or something.
Yeah.
They were out early. So brilliant, really, really well done to you all. Any more shout outs?
Trying to think of shout outs off the top of my head. Year 11, we do the year 11s because they've finished, they've got their results and stuff now. Some good results. And what I will say for the year 11s is that the parent season that we had last week, very, very positive.
Yeah.
And the mindset of most of them, I would say, is very positive as well because they're handing us pieces of work now which we never would have got before. So really, really positive. and hopefully going forward it continues.
Yeah,
well.
I think they did really well. Those mocks were difficult. It's a stressful period for them, but I think they've done really well. And I've got a lot of time for these year 11s. I think they're going to do well.
Yeah,
I'm positive.
Good.
I'm trying to be positive.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Any other shout-outs? I can't think of any.
Nah, not that I can think of.
Anything that's happened that's mad? No, I can't think of anything. Right, so I suppose we just jump straight into it.
Into our topic. So what we're going to look at today?
We have not touched this topic on the podcast yet. I was looking to see if we had, because I felt like we talked about food banks before, but I don't think we have.
No.
But what we're going to talk about today is food security. Now, this links to our year 8 topic of changing populations.
Yeah.
And it also links to our year 11 topic of resource reliance. This is where the case studies are. So what we're going to breeze through today, and again, for our year 11s, and for any year 11 who's listening, this is just going to give you sort of the basics. Obviously, it's tailored to the context of our school.
Yeah.
But any year 11s listening to this can just find out the positives and the negatives. We're going to evaluate a little bit, but we won't go too much into that sort of detail. But we'll start off, sir, by I'm going to ask you how we define food security.
So it is the amount of people that have access to nutritious and healthy food to basically to survive.
Yeah, so there's 2 types of food security. There's economic food security and there's physical food security.
So making sure you've got the money available to buy food and the actual facilities, natural landscape to grow food and have access to the food itself.
Yeah, so I see it as economic access is the affordability of food, like you said, and then physical access is their food on the shelves. Yeah. Yeah. So multiple different things can influence that. So economic access could be cost of living, so the price of food goes up. That could be due to conflict, as we've seen with Ukraine and Russia. It could be falling wages, so people then can't start affording certain types of food. So those are the 2 main reasons. So the price of food fluctuating, and also the people's wages fluctuating as well, because then they might not have, the food's there, they just can't afford it. And then physical access, that's where we get into both physical and human causes of it. So it could be conflict again, so there's less food on the shelves. It could be things like climate, making things dry, so desertification takes place, linked to our year 9 topic in Kenya. That can cause food insecurity. It could be natural disasters, floods, that sort of stuff.
What about leaving something like the EU?
Yeah, so
we just talked about it, but we haven't.
Yeah, so
we don't really teach it too much.
Yeah, so we can talk about it in terms of trade issues.
Yeah.
So it could be more expensive to ship the food in. If that happens, and the price of food will go up because the companies have to put the cost of that somewhere.
Of course, the food was like waiting at the border for a little bit longer, wasn't it? So it's gone up. Okay.
So those are the causes of it.
Yeah.
We're now going to look at the solutions to it,
because this is what they really sort of need to know, isn't it?
Yeah. So there's 2 to 3 case studies in this basically. You've got one, which is how does the UK achieve food security on a local scale?
Yeah.
And then we've got how did the UK achieve food security on a national scale in the past and in the present?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll talk about local scale first. So I always sort of try to ask the kids, is this going to feed everyone in the UK?
Yeah.
And the answer is no.
Yeah.
Right. So our little example that we got is the West End Food Bank in Newcastle. Now that video that we showed in that year 11 lesson, I think is probably one of the most powerful videos that we have.
Because at first they're sort of also, our kids aren't really used to the Geordie accent.
No.
Especially not a very working class Geordie accent. It's quite a hard hitting video. It's a Vice News video. It's Vice News, isn't it? Where they go to the food bank.
It's called Shy Ben's Getting Out, and it's such a great. I think it's such a when you see, because I always try to say to them like,
what's it? Shy
Ben's Getting Out.
So shy people getting off. Shy.
So it's like, but it's like this is the reality of some people.
Yeah.
You've also got to realise that you don't know it, but that could be the reality of some of the people in the room.
100%.
Right. So it's one of those things where you just got to take a little bit sort of carefully, and the fact that this guy is then going around the house, he's talking about all the food that he's got from the food bank that's now potentially out of date and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's all of that, and I think, like you said, it's quite hard hitting. But what is a food bank? So
a food bank is a non-government organisation. They're a charity.
Yeah.
Where you can go weekly and collect food for you and your family. So it would be non-perishable goods. Usually things like pasta. I do think that Greggs actually take their sandwiches to food banks, but generally speaking, if you're donating to a food bank, they ask you to donate non-perishable goods like pasta, tinned food, even like toiletries, stuff like that. But then I do think that some companies like Greggs and stuff would take fresh sandwiches, but that must be a different thing altogether. But so yeah, basically you can go each week and collect a food parcel, and
I think the one that's in the year 8 in the textbooks, it's 3 days worth of food.
It depends, I think.
Yeah.
But the thing with it is, you have to have an address.
Yeah.
That's a problem with it.
Yeah.
So they're not feeding the homeless. They're feeding people who often work, people who often...
That stat where it's like 45% of people that use food banks now are either in full-time or part-time work.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So they... So it isn't a case of these people aren't homeless. That's what I think is quite an important thing to know. They've got an address. They are often working. They've got families. You know, they're fully functioning in society. They just aren't quite able to make ends meet.
Yeah,
so they can afford to go shopping.
some of the kids are like, how comes he's in a house but he can't afford food? And you're like, well, that's where his money's going.
Exactly, yeah. And then he's talking about his bills and stuff. By the end of the month, he hasn't got enough for food. And as soon as they arrive, the first person that arrives, the new person in the video, she has to give her address and stuff like that. Which that leads on to then sort of the poverty cycle and how hard it is for homeless people to get into food banks.
Because I think you talk about this quite a lot, don't you, with the fact that you can't do anything without an address. You can't get a bank account without an address.
Yeah, if you don't have a fixed address, you can't get a bank account. If you don't have a bank account, you can't get a job. The whole thing's just a cycle of difficulty. But these people, but the point I'm making is these people aren't homeless.
Yeah.
This isn't a soup kitchen, it's a food bank. Yeah. So they're functioning people. In society, they just can't quite afford it. But yeah, like you say, you get your box, you go home and it will have enough to get you over the week, or it will top up shopping and things like that.
So if we think about now, how does it achieve food? How does it help achieve food security? So we think about that physical and that economic access.
Should we just give the stat of how many people are using that every week?
Then? Yeah, so 1,000 people.
1,000 people a week. Yeah. And it just basically jumps up and up and up. From the first week they opened, it was a few. Yeah. But that 1,000 people a week is paid specific detail.
Exactly, yeah. So the positives of it.
So how does it create food security?
How does it help achieve food security? Is that it helps achieve physical food security. Because it gives food immediately, right? So that's a good thing.
Yep.
It means that people can then start moving away from severe food insecurity and start moving into like moderate and marginal food insecurity. But in terms of how it does, some of them also help with cooking.
Yep.
So that can help. So then maybe they can get some cheap, fresh food and that sort of stuff, and then they can start to cook that. Because there's really interesting part of it is that nutritious part of it.
Yeah.
Where if you're eating McDonald's every single day, technically, by definition, you could be food insecure because you're not eating the other food maybe isn't available to you. So an interesting thing is if you can't cook, people that are deprived, sometimes they can be some of the most unhealthy people in society, right? And there's a really good example where it's like, if you've got a family of 4 and you've got a fiver, right? What are you going to do? Are you going to go to the shop, spend £5 in a shop, go home and cook all that food, or are you going to get a 99p cheeseburger with all those calories in it that will like satiate them, sort of thing? Might not be unhealthy, but at least they're fed. Yeah. Right. That's the option that people are going to
go with. Yeah, because if you go to the other end of the spectrum where you're like, right, okay, you've got your family. Did you say a family of 4 or 5? 4. You wake up in the morning and every person at that table is going to have granola with seeds, fresh yogurt and fresh fruit on it. Well, you're talking from the supermarket, 15 quid, 20 quid for breakfast alone. Yeah. And then if you're going to have organic meat with the best vegetables and all these things that go into it, it isn't cheap. To be healthy is really expensive. Yeah. Not really expensive, but it is expensive. Yeah. It can be. Like you say, the easy alternatives, these sort of £1 microwave meals that you see frozen, like you say, you buy 4 of them and you fed your family, everyone's got a hot meal to have. But if you look at it, there's the preservatives, there's all the calories in it, because obviously it has to make up what's lacking in nutrients. And then, like you say, so just because you're having something to eat doesn't mean you're fully food secure.
Okay, so I think with the positives is that they're being learnt these skills so that they can maybe look after themselves a bit more. And they are literally getting food, getting food.
Something that they can make,
The negatives of food banks. Now, what's a bit of a shame is that the way we sort of talk about food banks is I think we're very good in linking it to food security. Yeah. Because food banks are a brilliant thing. They should never exist.
No, the fact that they exist is a massive problem, but the fact we have them is amazing.
Yeah. So the negatives, that relies on volunteers.
Yep.
Relies on volunteers to run it.
100%.
And those being in those videos, some of them are not treated very nicely at all.
No.
This also relies on donations.
Yep.
It doesn't solve the problem.
100%.
Going to the food bank doesn't stop falling wages.
And doesn't help anybody break out of poverty. No. Doesn't do anything for that. It's just sustaining you at that level.
Yeah. So there's this really interesting thing about poverty, and maybe we could do a whole podcast on poverty itself. It was, if you are on £100,000 and you get given £1,000, you won't spend it.
Yeah.
Right, you'll invest it or something like that. If you give someone who's on £1,000, what are they going to do with it?
Spend it.
They're going to spend it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not a case of, because sometimes you get the bounce back of, oh, they've got that, so they can save that £67 a week. It doesn't work like that.
No.
It's not how poverty works.
No.
Right. So that's obviously an issue. So it doesn't solve the issue of that. The fact that the food can be unhealthy, then doesn't quite tick that food security box.
People become reliant on it.
That's their source of food.
That becomes in your source of food, and you're relying on that. And then if for whatever reason that charity fails or can no longer sustain it, or the donations don't keep up with demand, then you're then.
They said, what happens if no one gives food? And I said, well, then there's no food.
Then there is no food. So it relies on other people in society, and probably the people who are donating it, without getting political, aren't probably the richest people in society.
Absolutely not. So
do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Bet you any money.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't want to meet it.
No, I know what you mean.
But you know when you go to the supermarket now, you see the donation things, don't you? And it will be, I bet you any money, it's normal working people throwing in a few tins.
Yeah, and when you read the textbook, it says food donations normally come from places like schools.
Yeah, we could. Well, how many do we've done 2 or 3 this year already, and we have huge amounts coming. And anyway. So a lot of it does come from schools, churches, them sort of things, local community groups. So
right. So
quickly recap. So the positives of it are, it does provide you with food.
Yeah.
You can feed your family.
Pick up skills.
You can pick up skills. It also, there is an element of it builds community in the area. It brings people together, because that video they all have a cup of tea together and stuff. So they're the 4 positives that you can go with. Negatives are, it's not always nutritious. It relies on donations.
Yeah.
You become reliant on it. And what else? Doesn't fix the problem. Yeah. We happy with that?
Yeah.
Cool.
Right. 6 minutes past 8. So we'll try and do the next 2 quite quickly.
Right,
okay.
let's go.
So now we've got to think about it on a national scale.
Right.
And we'll start off with the Green Revolution.
Yeah.
Right.
So these are the responses to food insecurity.
Yeah. So this is how the UK tried to achieve food security on a national scale. Yeah. And basically what the Green Revolution is intensive farming.
Yep.
Right? So it's happened in the 1960s, so this is a past attempt.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of the Green Revolution was grow as much food as possible. Right? So we either did that at home, or we encouraged EDCs or LIDCs to grow that food, and then we imported it in.
Right.
So a brilliant example is this thing called Miracle Rice.
Yeah.
Right? So then we gave the seeds of Miracle Rice to LIDCs, they grew it.
Yeah.
And then we imported it back. Okay, and that would have helped them to achieve some sort of level of food security.
Do you know why it was called Miracle Rice?
No, it grew quickly or something, is it?
10 times the yield from
10 times
rice.
the yield. Right, okay, so that's
you
useful as well.
10 times the amount of food, which then
Yeah.
will lower the cost of the food for everybody. It will be cheaper to import.
Yeah.
Just any time you have more of it, it brings the cost of it down.
Absolutely.
And gives access to more people.
So that's economic and physical access there. Positives of it, like you say, 10 times the yield, you've got the Miracle Rice, so more people can be fed.
Yeah.
The negatives of it are going to be things like some LIDCs couldn't afford the machinery, so literally can't make the food.
Yeah.
You've got also the high use of fertilizers and what's the other one? Fertilizer, something else. Pesticides. That then impacted water sources.
So they can have big environmental impacts.
Big environmental impacts. The issue with that is then maybe then water sources aren't particularly safe to use on the plants anymore, so you can't get that. So you can't get the intensive crops, and also you've got pests.
Yeah.
Because they do this thing called monoculture, where a whole field is just, for example, lettuces, right? Because the Green Revolution quite a lot of the time was based on sort of vegetable and salad sort of stuff, right? So when that starts to happen, if you get one pest or one disease that affects that one plant, then you've lost your whole field.
That's yeah. So they were they're so reliant on that one field. Like you say, you get a pest in that or a disease, then the whole field goes. You've lost everything.
Yeah.
So it's quite sort of it's quite high risk, high reward, really, isn't it? If it goes well, then you're going to be okay. Yeah. If it doesn't go well, you could be in quite a lot of trouble.
Yeah, so that's one we have to sort of evaluate ourselves, I suppose. But it's a case of, did it help achieve some level of food security? Yes, because it could achieve economic and physical food security.
Yeah.
But the negatives of it, it was a short-term win. It didn't help in the long term, very short-term, right?
Yeah.
Now we move on to hydroponics,
yeah.
which is our present attempt. And our example for this, I've actually drove past this on the way to Margate once, which is Thanet Earth in Kent.
Right.
Which is a massive greenhouse, right?
Is it big?
Humongous.
Right.
Hydroponics is very, very interesting. I think it's very cool.
Yeah.
Right, and the idea of hydroponics is that you're growing food without soil. So a lot of times it happens vertically as well, isn't it? So you're reducing the amount of space you need to farm. Also, what it allows against more salad foods, right? So those sorts of things. But the benefit of not using the land is that you're not using as much space. So technically, you can grow more food.
Yeah.
Right. It grows 50% faster because it's getting UV all year round, all day round. So you've not got daytime and nighttime. So it grows faster.
Yeah.
And we can also basically double the yields as a result of that, right? Because instead of having one time of year where you harvest, you can have multiple.
Yeah.
Okay, it's basically growing in a greenhouse. That's what
you're
doing, right? Very good in that way. Do you know who the second biggest food exporter in the world is? Total. Maybe it should have been my fact.
Who? Do you want to hold it for the fact?
No, I'll tell you it now. I don't know who the first is. I'll tell you the first anyway.
Who's second?
Netherlands.
Do you know what? That doesn't surprise me.
No. And do you know why? Hydroponics.
Yeah, because and it's just so flat. And every day there's just greenhouse after greenhouse after greenhouse.
Biggest food exporters in the world, USA.
Right.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Because we're up against time here. So
negatives we've got to think about.
Negatives of hydroponics are again, they're not cheap.
No.
They're pretty expensive. It's not something that you can go, oh, here's, to an LIDC, you need to tune into this hydroponics way of growing food. It's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
You need the equipment. So you need the greenhouse. You need the actual equipment to grow the soil. You need the dissolved salts, the minerals. You need everything to do it. And you need to know what you're doing. Yeah. So you need skilled workers to be able to set it up, maintain it, and look after it. Yeah. It's not something your average person can do.
If we sort of sum
easily.
it up, so maybe it's something that's good. Maybe it's something it's not large scale yet. It's not nationwide yet. No. But it could be something that doesn't work necessarily in the short term, but could potentially be very beneficial in the long term.
Yeah.
Right.
Very good.
Good.
I think that's all right.
That is all right.
Because keep it really simple, and it's something we haven't done. So very simple. You should be able to answer that question now.
Do you know what? There's a lot in the news actually.
Right, we're moving on to the news now. Let's do it.
Yeah. So first one
was your oil tanker.
Is the oil tanker. Now I haven't actually ever really seen a picture of the oil tanker.
Have you not seen how melted it is?
No. Do you know what? I actually haven't. I've listened to it a lot on the radio.
Oh my god! There's a picture of it, and the whole thing's melted.
Isn't there a video where you see it here?
Yeah. But the front of the boat's completely. So what happened anyway? We're mumbling here.
Yeah. So Monday.
I think so.
On Monday, we got the news that in the North Sea, an oil tanker carrying jet fuel was that the one that was stationed?
Yeah, I think that was the one that was anchored 10 miles off the coast of Hull.
Yeah, and then a smaller boat, went in and just slammed into the side of it. So the big ship was anchored, and then the smaller boat slammed into the side of it. Big bang.
Yeah.
Right. Everyone bar one is accounted for.
Yeah.
So we know definitely one person has unfortunately passed away as a result of this. The investigation after is quite fascinating, to be honest, because first of all, we said that the tanker had cyanide in it, and then we've been told it was empty.
Right.
So the boat's just gone slamming into there. And now it turns out that apparently, and I will say apparently, that the person driving the boat that crashed into the tanker is a Russian national.
Yeah.
Right? So again...
The rumour mill is spinning as usual.
Big time. So again, interesting to see what I think I say after every news story. Interesting to see what happens there. Right?
That should be your sort of BBC closing, and it will be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah. So, so we've got those things that's happening there. Right. Second thing I want to talk about are tariffs.
Oof.
So, we're going to try and get Mr. Driscoll on soon, try and explain these sorts of things a little bit more. But basically, what's happened is Donald Trump has put on a 25% tariff on steel and iron for the whole world.
Yeah.
Right? So Mr. Driscoll explained this to me. So what that means is if you want to import or export steel to the USA, you have to pay 25% more to do that.
Yeah.
Right? So that then puts basically, if you want to buy if an American company wants to buy a steel from Britain, there's 25% tax on it. So obviously then the cost is going to go on to the person buying it.
Yeah.
Because the company can't then afford just to lose 25%, right?
No.
As a result of that, people in the USA then might start just using USA steel and that sort of stuff. So then we should see a growth in the steel industry in the USA, right?
And that's the idea of it.
That's the idea of it, right? But then what happens is the rest of the world go, well, if you're going to put that on us, we're going to put it on you, right? So then the cost of everything then just goes up. But it could be just a reactionary thing, so they're going bang on, put all these tariffs on, and then everyone then comes to the table to get a better deal. But the idea is to grow your own industry. So that's the idea of these tariffs, right? Whether it works or not, I don't know. But that's also the benefit of trading blocks like the EU, is that there's no tariffs on any trade.
Yeah.
So it's all just completely like that.
Interesting.
Any more news?
No, I can think of.
Potential ceasefire in Ukraine and Russia?
Oh, yeah, of course, that's... Hopefully, I bet you any money Donald Trump will get a ceasefire sorted.
Yeah, but it's going to be a ceasefire where it's... this is what I heard on LBC. Zelensky steps down.
Yeah.
Russia gets the land it's already got in Ukraine.
Yeah.
And that's it. No Ukraine joining NATO. There'll be that's what the ceasefire will be, and that's what the terms of the thing. That's what the terms of the thing will be.
We'll
of the peace.
Be interesting to see what happens there.
Yes, exactly that. Right. Geography facts.
Okay, here we go.
Right. Let's.
And in the weather.
And then the weather.
And then we can crack on.
Yeah.
We didn't. Oh, we'll talk about your new screen when we do the weather.
Oh yeah. We know that one. You know that one. Have you got to think of any geography facts off the top of your head?
None whatsoever.
I've got one. It's pretty minging.
Minging?
Minging, yeah. So we've got the Grand Canyon in the USA, right? If every single person on the planet weed into the Grand Canyon, would it fill it up?
No.
It would take 800,000 years to fill it up.
What if everyone weeding it constantly?
Constantly. It would take 800,000 years to fill up.
9 billion people use the Grand Canyon as a toilet, it would take...
Continuously. 800,000 years to fill up.
We are scratching at the bottom of the barrel for these.
Yeah, I found that on TikTok. So,
jeez.
Right.
Okay, we'll move on swiftly from that, shall we?
Weather.
What's the weather situation?
Right. Last weekend, beautiful.
Oh my God! What unbelievable, wasn't it?
Unbelievable scenes, it really
And then
was.
Monday it was like, no, back to reality. Have a bit of this.
So the weekend's looking like. Got anything planned for the weekend?
Me, no, because I moved house, didn't I?
Yeah.
So I'm emptying boxes still. Emptying boxes.
Saturday, Sunday, highs of 9s and 10s, but no rain. Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday though. Wednesday sunny, CBs high of 15. Thursday 17, CBs as well.
Nice.
And then, so we're slowly creeping into spring.
Look at it, it's
As we
getting
can see
brighter,
there.
it's getting
I live in
nicer.
Meadow, sort of getting there as well. I think it's quite nice to be honest.
It does actually, it's giving me good positive vibes.
Yeah. And I think we should wrap it up there and carry on working on our songs. So.
Oh yeah. We're making a song.
Yeah.
But we'll
It's mainly only going to be with staff, and staff will love it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Think about some teachers' reaction to that. If they know the song, they're going to love it.
Anyway, because we've got nothing else to do with our day, ladies and gentlemen.
Right,
so, thank you very much for taking the time to listen to us.
Guys.
Have a wonderful weekend.
You too, sir.
You ain't got that.